There you have it, folks. My Licorice is alive with Stablemates by Benny Golson, one of the great swinging jazz standards of the mid-1950s. Stablemates was first recorded by Miles Davis in 1955 with a very young John Coltrane as part of the new Miles Davis Quintet. But my favorite recording of Stablemates is by Donald Byrd and Gigi Grice in the modern jazz perspective. Wow. A sophisticated, swinging 9-player ensemble with the great Wynton Kelly on piano and Art Taylor on drums. If you're a jazzer, it's a desert island album, meaning you have to have it. So there you have it, my little stripped-down version of Benny Golson's Stablemates. And welcome, folks, to another installment of Rebel Without Applause, coming to you from my movie studio apartment right here in the Wood of the Holly, under the sign overlooking the enchanted land of law. As always, I'm doing my best to break it down jazz-wise, joke-wise, culture-wise, and otherwise. But right now, what can I say? I have a confession to make, a conundrum to resolve. I'm in a tug-of-war within my own brain space. What to do with the brat boy? Do I ignore? Do I protest? Do I protest, then ignore? With every day, there are fresh targets and new assaults. Last week, it was Sharpton. Before that, the congressman and his whole city of Baltimore. Before that, those 4 congressional ladies of color. I mean, it's hard to keep track now. The brat boy has so many enemies, real and imagined, and mostly black. His favorite targets, as of late, are women, preferably women of color, or women who he assaulted or had affairs with, or women that stand up to him and criticize. Actually, if you ask me, and nobody does, his shit list would actually qualify as my honor roll, and alternatively, his honor roll is definitely my shit list. You know, I just wish he'd call me out, throw a couple of nasty tweets my way. I'm sure it would help my podcast. Right now, I have a slow-growing but steady audience. But surely a shit listing from the Predator-in-Chief would give me a fresh boost. Maybe then I could get an actual paying sponsor. Or even better, regular spots at the local stand-up comedy venues. Still, with every fresh bombast, the editorialists and the commentators are handed low-hanging fruit to masticate on. It's almost too easy. I mean, he's a racist, a moron, an empty suit, a gangster, a con man, a money launderer. Yeah, he obstructs justice, extorts, bribes, threatens, witness tampers, colludes and conspires, and has selfie stops with homicidal maniacs. Sure, he sword dances with murderous medieval sheiks. Duh, we know that. It's so self-evident. You don't need a degree in psychology to see this. You don't have to connect the dots. There are so many dots, the picture is plain. I actually wonder if he has some sort of grand plan, or is he just pinballing moment to moment like some frenzied wasp looking for his next victim? My guess is he doesn't have a clue. He just has some vague idea that he wants to roll back history to an imaginary moment that never existed. You know, time travel to a pre-Civil War utopia where slaves, smiling and singing, happily worked the fields, where southern mountebanks rode in on white steeds to seduce or rape virgin southern belles. Maybe through the sheer force of his personality, he can transport us back to perpetual summertime where the living was easy and, the cotton was high. Just like the opening scenes of Gone with the Wind, where Vivien Leigh pranced and flirted in that glorious hoop dress, where slaves weren't really slaves. No, those black folks working the fields were part of a loving, extended family. They were just interns earning valuable work experience, making important connections for a wonderful life in agriculture. I get the feeling that the Grand Dragon, the brat boy billionaire, is just a wannabe Confederate colonel. He's like, those stars and bar boys, those reenactors who put on their faded gray flannels, hoist their muskets, and every summer march to their imaginary deaths in battlefield parks like Shiloh or Fort Donelson or Murfreesboro. They get to kill and be killed, and then gather for barbecue and beers afterwards. So much fun. That's it. Of course. He's a reenactor, and he's auditioning to play the part of Jefferson Davis or Robert E. Lee. Or better yet, maybe he wants to strike a more daring and dashing figure like Nathan Bedford Forrest. And if you don't know about Nathan Bedford Forrest, you should. He's America's first homegrown war criminal, a battle-tested, pathological psychoterrorist. He'd have made any Al-Qaeda or ISIS warlord proud. Yep, Nathan Bedford Forrest was the Confederate hero of the battle for Fort Pillow. And if you don't know about Fort Pillow, you should. Located on a bluff overlooking the Mississippi River in western Tennessee, Fort Pillow was attacked by Forrest and his Confederate cavalry in April of 1864. After a pitched battle, the Union defenders, half of whom were freshly emancipated black soldiers, they surrendered the overlook. They stacked their rifles in neat piles, and then without warning or mercy, Nathan Bedford Forrest massacred the 300 black Union soldiers. But the murder and mayhem didn't end there. After the war, just to solidify his racist and Confederate credentials, Nathan Bedford Forrest became the first Grand Wizard or Grand Dragon of a small organization which lives to this day. Yeah, you guessed it, the Ku Klux Klan. He was the original Grand Dragon. Maybe our predator-in-chief is auditioning for that part. It sure feels like it. Anyway, where was I? Where are we? By that I mean, where do we stand in history now, at this moment? Is this the last moment of sanity before we descend into some maelstrom, some whirlpool of chaos and hate, like Europe in the moments before the 30 Years' War or at Fort Sumter in 1860? Or, more hopefully, maybe this is just a blip on the radar, the brief high watermark for racism and hate and stupidity, kind of like Pickett's charge at Gettysburg when those goofball Confederates made one last maniacal charge against those steel black Union guns. And they were cut to pieces. Body parts and swords, gray caps and muskets littered the field. In just a matter of minutes, the defenders of hoop skirts and cotillions and slavery were gone with the fucking wind. By that I mean slaughtered en masse. And after that, the ultimate outcome of our Civil War was a bloody but essentially foregone conclusion. Sure, hundreds of thousands were still to die, but Dixie was dead. The land of hoop dresses and cotton-picking interns was defeated forever. And so, for us, at this moment, maybe a brighter dawn is just around the corner. The arc of justice will continue its long journey. Maybe that's really what's happening. From my little movie studio apartment foxhole right here in the Wood of the Holly, it's really hard to tell. From where I sit, it's all confusion and misdirection. With each Twitter volley from the Grand Dragon, there's a fresh blast of editorials and TV commentary that denounces and decries, and the battle wears on with seemingly no end in sight. This culture war feels endless and fruitless and exhaustive. But whatever, I'll keep my head down and, when necessary, get my shots in as needed. In the meantime, I still want to surf, be happy, make new friends, and maybe, just maybe, get a career. But first and foremost, I got to kickstart things on the personal side, so I'm swiping through the Tinderverse and the Bumbleverse, and with every fresh swipe, my heart beats with hope. Somewhere, someplace is that lovely lady who will make me miserable for the rest of my life. I know she's out there. I feel it. And with my heart brimming with hopefulness, today I'm going to catch a showing of Quentin Tarantino's new opus, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm going to give it my best effort not to hate it. I'm going to try and be fair. My jealousies and demons will not overtake me. Quentin may have wanted to kill Bill, but this Bill will not be bitter. This Bill will not kill, I promise. I'm just hoping I don't have to watch those Manson kids go apeshit. I do not want to see Sharon Tate get butchered, and praying that I won't feel overhyped and abused when I walk out of the theater like I felt after just about every other Quentin movie I have suffered through. But come on, Bill. Don't be a hater. I'm working on that. These are my issues, not Quentin's. Maybe violence for violence sake is cool. Maybe there is some meaning lurking in all his cinematic mayhem. I'll try and keep a clear mind and an open heart. But still, maybe I'm a little bit jaded. I mean, we are connected in a strange way, not that he knows it. Our first films came out roughly around the same time, Reservoir Dogs for Quentin and The Solar Opposite for Bill. Though I didn't know him, we shared a slew of friends at the time. Anyway, the dogs from the Tarantino reservoir catapulted Quentin into the celluloid stratosphere. And as is not well documented, my movie, The Solar Opposite, got great reviews. It was about a comedian whose love life was a joke. Basically, it was all true except for the happy parts, which I added, but nobody got killed. No blood, no special effects, just a good story, some nifty dialogue, and cool jokes. My movie was well loved by the few that saw it during its brief commercial run in theaters, but in the 20 years or so since Solar saw the screen, yours truly has been scuffling to get any one of my next 9 or so screenplays made. But that's the way it works in the wood of the holly. When the fairy dust is on you, you're golden, and when it's not, well, that's another story. The trick, I think, is to be happy anyway, and somehow I am. I think it's from surfing or swimming or paddling or fly fishing or maybe this podcast. Not sure. But no worries, folks. I'm good. Now I'm going to go see that movie. I'll fill you in on the backside. Okay. I'm back. I saw it at the Cinerama Dome on Sunset Boulevard right here in the heart of the Holly. First impression. The movie was basically an overstuffed time capsule crammed with cultural trinkets from late 60s La La Land. The whole 2-hour and 44-minute jaunt is like a footlocker bursting with period adverts and TV shows and billboards and storefronts long since demolished, and with the hit radio station 93 KHJ animating every second of the soundtrack. I was reminded of the George Lucas classic American Graffiti. It was almost like Quentin was trying too hard to prove his ownership of 1969, kind of like a trivia freak gone berserk. More footnotes than story, if you get my drift. But if there was one thing that Quentin missed, one conspicuous feature missing from his 1969 La La Land canvas, it was the fucking smog. It's way better now, but back then, with gas-guzzling dynos clogging the freeways and boulevards, you could barely see anything. The whole of La La Land was suffused with a lung-burning gray-brown haze. That I remember. If you want to do a little La La Land time traveling to the late 60s, check out Save the Tiger, which got Jack Lemmon an Oscar, or Robert Towne's masterwork, Shampoo, starring Warren Beatty and directed by Hal Ashby. Anyway, for better or worse, and probably better, Q's latest is a leisurely, slap-happy jaunt between two Wood of the Holly bras. Sort of like Sancho Panza and Don Quixote. Don Quixote, the fading cowboy store, and Sancho, his loyal sidekick. Funny how things work in life. The sidekick was more captivating than the star, but both were believable in their milieu. And like he does in so many of his movies, Quentin relies on massively charismatic performances to cover up a sometimes spotty and overlong narrative. The whole piece felt, well, kind of overwritten and underconceived. But whatever, maybe I'm just quibbling. Maybe I'm just a little bit jealous. I shouldn't be trying to prove my talent on another dude's work. I'm not a critic, I'm a creator. Besides, it's been over 50 years since that murderous and smoggy summer when those Manson goofballs performed their butchery. So I guess the movie's statute of limitations is passed, and it's finally okay to do a kind of screwball, Reservoir Dogsy, happy-ending comedy about a mass slaughter that happened, but didn't. Anyway, if you get a chance, go see it and enjoy. I think I did. Sort of. Well, maybe just a little. Oh, shit, my bitterness is showing again. I better shut up while I'm ahead. After all, this is a small town. I still have my own stories to tell and movies to make. I don't want to end up on the right person's shit list or the wrong person's honor roll. So, till next time, folks. Adios, goodbye, and adieu.